Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish. It makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Giving Starts With You podcast. I am so delighted that you're here again listening to another episode. This show is all about connecting you with people that are going to help you. They're going to help you during your journey. And, even more importantly than that, that you're going to feel like someone understands, someone's been there before, so that you're not alone. You don't feel alone in your journey. A podcast once saved me. And even though I was in a dark time in my life, and I didn't want to speak to anybody, I could listen in my ears and I could listen quietly and nobody else needed to know what I was listening to. And it just helped me feel like part of a community. So I hope that that's what this show does for you. So today I have a very new friend to me. Her name is Gina Clark. I've just started speaking with her a few minutes ago, and I can already tell her heart is like amazing. So welcome, Gina, to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I am wonderful, and thank you for having me. And I can also tell that your heart is amazing, Nelia.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. So I'm just going to tell you what this episode's about and introduce Gina for you. Do you guys ever wish that you could live a more creative life, but you get blocked, stuck, or struggle to find time to be creative? I know that I do. Gina Clark is an artist, a writer, a certified Kaizen-Muse creativity coach who believes everyone, even the most logical people, can be creative with just a few tweaks. Kaizen-Muse uses small steps, mindfulness, and intuition to gradually build creative momentum without overwhelm. This is a part that is like stands out for me. Gina is the founder of Gina Clark Creative, an online community that provides creative resources and coaching for people looking to ignite their creativity. She especially loves to help her fellow left brain creatives and analytical artists and believes that embracing your creativity is the ultimate act of self-care. Gina lives in Kenora, Ontario, with her husband, 3 children, 2 cats, and a very active mini Australian Shepherd. I love this so much. It's awesome. I have a pug myself. Very sweet. So
Yeah.
yeah, Gina's a fellow Canuck, so I'm especially excited to have her here.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Yes, I always love supporting fellow Canucks. I don't know. I think we have to lift each other up a little bit and have our voices heard. So this is fantastic. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here today.
Awesome. And thank you for everything that you do. It sounds like you're really in tune with who you are and you're trying to help others. And, that's what, to me, that's what life is all about. Life isn't about us, really. It's about what we do with it, right? So thank you for helping all those people. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how this all started?
Sure. I I spent a long time, probably a good couple of decades, um, not quite feeling like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Um, but there was nothing for me to complain about. So I pushed it aside for, a long time. And when I say nothing to complain about, I mean, I had, a great husband. My kids are great. They're funny. We live in a comfortable house, decent job. Like, what I kept coming back to was sort of that self blame. Like, what's your problem? Why do you feel like this? you don't have anything to complain about. So just, chin up and carry on. There's nothing bad happening. But despite that, I still felt like something was tugging at me. But I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. So about 5 years ago, I think I was around 44 at the time, I started to have panic attacks. And there was some stuff going on in my life that probably contributed to that. But I think that some of this, pent up, what I know now to be creativity, contributed to that. Um, so when I started having these panic attacks, I saw my doctor and was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. Um, and I started trying things to make myself feel better. Um, and it also hit me that I had been anxiety ridden my entire life, but didn't know it. I thought everybody felt like that all the time and worried and, you know, catastrophized things. And, hearing that that wasn't the case, I kind of set out to see what I could do to make myself feel better. So I learned a lot about the brain, neuroplasticity, and how we can do things and make small changes in our life to, change our neural pathways and how we think and how we react to things. And as part of that, I started to dabble with my creativity. Um, and I had been an art history major in university way back in the day. Um, and but I never did anything with it. I ended up becoming a police officer of all things, and did that for quite some time. And then I worked in public administration. So I was really good at choosing really responsible jobs that were stable, um, and I guess essentially I was afraid of that creative part of me and letting it out, because who knows what might happen, right? I might go off and, be some crazy artist or, whatever these myths are that we have. So yeah, what I found was the more I dabbled and I just did small things, and the more I told myself it didn't matter, um, that I wasn't making a masterpiece or writing, an opus novel. Um, that was okay because I was starting to heal myself through creativity and I could feel it. Um, so as the years went on, I uh, felt better and better. I embraced my creativity more and more. I realized that that's what I was missing. That's what had been tugging at me all these years. Um, and I thought, I want to share this with other people because I really feel that so many people could um, heal or just embrace their true selves
Mm.
if they embrace their creativity. Um, and I think a lot of people are afraid to do that, or they have ideas about what that means. And I want to break down those myths and help people um, move past their blocks, and just experience the uniqueness of themselves.
I love that so much. And you don't have to be good at what you're creating. It's not about that. It's all about letting your feelings out. Sometimes that's the only way we can do it if we're that, the creative person, right? Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. That's um, it's funny because as you were talking, I feel so many similarities with you, which means that a lot of our listeners do too. And, sometimes we think, why am I unhappy? Why do things not seem right? You know, I have a roof over my head. I have all these things, but sometimes like you said, we choose the responsible things, so that we can provide for our families. And, we become an adult and all these things, and we forget who we are and we forget what we're about. And it really clogs our soul, kind of like it just, Yeah, it just, I don't know. What is it about the art? Is it about letting, just being free and not having to think about it, and just, um, I don't know. It's sort of like it's limitless, right? Like, what is it for you that is part of, like, I don't know how to say this, but what is it just the free flowing? Is it, I don't know.
I want to go back to clogs your soul because I absolutely love that. Because that's what life can do to us. It can clog our souls, and this is a way of cleansing that. And it absolutely is like a flow for me. I find I became very interested in mindfulness and meditation when I was going through my episode of anxiety. Um, and I find creativity to be very mindful and very similar.
Mm,
Um, I found that a lot of the lessons that we learn through mindfulness and practicing yoga are very similar to the ones that we learn with creativity. Um,
mhm,
and it is about practice. So I want to touch again on something that you said about it's about, it's not about the product, and that's not how I work with people. Um, so if you're looking for somebody to help you, you know, bang out a large oil painting in 4 weeks, I'm not necessarily your person. I really want to help people um, move creativity into their lives and help them feel uh, like they're fully within themselves while they're doing it. And it absolutely doesn't matter what it looks like. I mean, I started by using my kids' art supplies. I didn't have any of my own stuff. I just I just picked up crayons or pencil crayons. Yeah, maybe, grabbed a paper towel if there wasn't any nice paper. I mean, there certainly wasn't any nice paper. It was a piece of construction paper. Um, and that's okay. And it just was so freeing for me, and it is so freeing for me, and I just get completely lost in it. So all of that stuff that's going on in your head and that little hamster wheel, it just seems to go away.
it's so true, and again, I can relate because I have one son. He's 14 now, but when he was little, I would enjoy the creativity more than he would. It was like, okay, here's the construction paper. And he'd be like, Mommy, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, I'm having fun. Like, I'm really feeling good right now.
Yeah.
I also suffer from anxiety. I suffer from depression, PTSD, all the things. And I love, like, my thing is music. So I
Mhm.
do art, but I'm not very good at it. But like you said, it doesn't matter. It's just how it makes me feel. And it's just, everything just goes away. Like, I know for me, when I was diagnosed with anxiety, I was angry, but then I was relieved because I'm like, this is what it is. Like, until you know what it is, you feel like you're so afraid of, like, what's happening to me, right? Am I having a heart attack? Or what is happening? How
Yeah.
did you feel when you were first diagnosed?
I Well, exactly like what you said. I felt when it was happening like I was going crazy,
Hmm.
because I was having these panic attacks would like wave over me for no apparent reason. There would be nothing happening in my external world, and it was like there were two voices in my head. One voice was saying, "Nothing's happening right now. You don't need to react like this. You don't need to be feel afraid of anything." But then another voice was just pushing me into that, absolute panic mode. Um, so yeah, when I was diagnosed, I was also, it was a relief. It was actually a really big relief because it explained a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and I actually started taking medication, which I
Same.
still take,
Yeah.
and that was a game changer for me. And I know that that's, not the solution for everyone, but for me, it's completely changed how I operate in the world. I didn't, like I said before, I didn't realize that I had anxiety. I just thought, I was always a kid that worried,
Hmm.
and everybody everybody thinks the
It's
way I do, and apparently they don't. So yeah, it's
it's funny,
definitely
isn't it?
allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take something that my brother-in-law likes to say, like, it allowed me to have a bus stop for my thoughts. Like, they
Oh
can
my God,
stop at
I
the
love
bus stop.
that.
Yes, before they come out or before they become uncontrollable. Um,
It's brilliant.
so yeah, yeah,
That's amazing, and I'm so glad that you said that, because if you don't suffer from it and you don't know what it's like, then you don't understand when people say what you just said and what I've just said, is that you just don't know. So you feel like you're going crazy and people are like, what are you talking about? I don't get it. But when you have that and you feel somebody else describe it the same way that you feel, it's helpful. Like, it's validating that somebody else gets it, and it is me and it is you, but there's so many people out there that are feeling this and they don't know what it is. And sometimes, like you said, medication is not for everybody. For me, I couldn't start the other healing parts until I was on medication, because it just helped me to relax enough to be able to be creative and do all those things. But everybody is different. Do you agree that being open to the creativity and all, and it was the biggest gift that you gave yourself that changed everything?
100%,
Mm.
100%. There's the things that I'm doing right now with the creativity coaching, uh, and just creative community that I'm building. There's days when it's hard, and there's days when I work another job. So there's days where I'm like, why am I doing this? This is, I don't have time. You have all those thoughts running through your head that, is this worth all of this time and energy? And so I've made a habit of asking myself, well, are you going to stop then? And the answer is always a hard no.
You
So
can't. You don't have a choice.
no, I absolutely know that this
Mm.
it's actually helped me feel alive in a way that I haven't
You're
felt
gonna make
for
me cry because I
decades.
love this so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to go back to something you had mentioned about music. I want to be really clear about how I define creativity, and it's not narrow, it's very broad.
Mm.
Um, I think anything where you are, problem solving or um, feeling something is creative. So your creativity could be music, cooking, gardening. It could be organization. That could get your creative juices really flowing. It's not necessarily, picking up a paintbrush, um, or drawing. And I'm not. I just wrote about this in my last email I sent. I'm not a technically proficient artist. I had a very, very interesting experience with a drawing class I had to take in university, and it was absolutely painful. Like, I just didn't. Everybody else was in the program. They were going to be professional artists. Like, that's what they were there for. I was this art history kid who had to take the class. Um, and like, I just don't draw well. And they could just see things the way I couldn't see what they were even seeing for
Mm.
them to put it down on the paper. Um, but the next year I had to take a class called basic design. Um, and in that class, what the professor did, he would come to class and say, your assignment is about color, hand it in 2 weeks.
Oh,
And that was it. And there were people who struggled with that. I
there's no
thrived.
direction. Yeah, because
Yes,
it's so open. It's like interpret
yes,
it. I love that so much.
yeah. And it was very much about it wasn't about being technically proficient in anything. It was about being creative and using your imagination and following your heart and soul, like what spoke to you about that.
Mm.
Um, and that's what I really want to try to connect people with, is that heart and soul,
Love that
that
so much.
creativity. Yeah. So it's very, and I guess too, I struggled when I was first starting to be creative. I started looking online for some resources,
Mm.
and I found a lot of um, tutorials or websites that were very specific to one kind of technique, like watercolor painting or, pottery. And that, it just didn't resonate with me because I just thought like, that's not what I want. I just want creativity. I don't want a tutorial. And that's how I came across the creativity coaching. I didn't even know it was a thing until it popped up in my Google search. And I was like, yes, this is what
Mm.
I want to teach people. This is what I want to share with people. Because
How
I want
exciting
people,
for you to
yeah,
that moment, oh yes, this is what
yeah,
I'm trying to describe, right?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So what I support people with is not learning a technique. It's bringing out their own unique selves into the world through creativity. And that, that's a
Oh,
process.
I love it. It's like, so Gina, it's like you're saying to me, you don't teach them the skill of art, you teach them like the skill of their intuition and figure out
Yes.
what connects them
Yes.
to something more, right? Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we all have to find the thing that, like you said, it makes you feel alive. We all have something that, and it could be it could be a combination of two or three things. But we're important. Like, we need to realize that we're worthy enough to take that time. Everybody's busy. You
Hmm.
become an adult and it's like busy, 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 busy. And you lose yourself sometimes, whether it's in your marriage or your career or just being a mom or a dad or whatever it is. And I had a similar journey, and now my business, Travel, Live, Give, is all about how to um, help the anxiety. Like, for me, I feel like giving to others, and I want to teach people how to create, again, creativity, but not in an art way, right? So, because you were
Hmm.
talking about that, but more figuring out what they love to do and creating a project somewhere else in the world, like taking that a step further, and helping people get that, because it's so much more peaceful and it's so much more grounding. And isn't that what life is really about? Like, being on the other side now, you're probably looking back going, oh my God, why didn't I see this sooner? But it comes when it comes, right? I mean, you wouldn't be here today if it weren't for all those things and you searching for something. So I think this is really going to be huge, because I think it's going to really help so many people, and people maybe don't even realize they need it. But when you start to take time out for yourself, I mean, don't you find that now you can show up better in all the other parts of your life?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what was huge for me was starting to say no to things.
Mm.
And that included um, no's to my family. Um, and they were self-imposed barriers that I had put on myself,
Oh.
like, oh, I can't, you know, my family expects me to do da da da. And when I slowly started saying, no, I can take an hour to myself
Mm.
to honor my creativity. That's okay. The whole world isn't going to fall apart if I do this. Um, Everything started getting better. And there was a little family rebellion, I'll say, because at first they're like, what? Mom's like not at my beck and call all the
Yes.
time. But they got used to it pretty quick, and now they know. They know if and obviously I try to bring my kids along for the creative ride whenever I can, but there's times that it's just for me, and I've set those boundaries now. um I've also I say no to more outside things that don't fill my cup. um
Without feeling guilty. Like, I'm sure
yeah.
you felt guilty at
Yes.
first, like, because I did as well. But you're
Yeah.
like, and then people just are like, yeah, they just don't rely on you. Because sometimes you do get people who rely on you too much. Like, there's a
Hmm.
difference between being there for somebody and doing everything for somebody. Like, there's a big
Yeah.
difference. I had a
Yeah.
moment too where I think my son was like 8 or 9, and I got myself a chair, went into the driveway, made a big sign, said "Mommy on strike." I sat out there with this big sign. Everybody's looking at me like, what a horrible mom, right? And had a book, opened the book, and just was like, he's like, "Mom, I'm thirsty. I don't have any clothes to wear." I'm like, you might have been a little older, maybe around 10. And I was like, "Honey, Mommy on strike." And he's like, "Dad, there's something wrong." Like with mom, my husband was at work. He's like, "There's something wrong." And he's like, "Okay, we can discuss it later." So he comes home at night and he was like, "What was going on today? Is everything all right?" And I'm like, "It's amazing." Like everything is just great. And then the next day he was like, "Mom, can I please have this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." But
Yep.
you have to learn boundaries because it's 24 hours in a day. And like you, I work full time too. And I have those days. And, I'm sure you agree that those days where you just don't know, is this worth it? You remember how it makes you feel. You remember how the people that you're trying to help, and that makes you excited again. That makes all the tiredness and all those hard days go away, right? And it's something you
Yeah.
need to do. Because I think from just hearing you speak, it's almost like I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is kind of your therapy too, to get through your anxiety. So if you stop, things might start to crumble again, right? So it's like a need now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's and it's not like it's a switch flips and all of a sudden you're not
Mm,
anxious or you're suddenly 100% um in touch with your creativity forever and all time. That's
right.
not how it works. It's an ebb and a flow. Um,
Mm,
I struggle with the same creative blocks that everyone else does. And that's part of what I do when I work with people is to help normalize that.
mm.
Um, Professional artists, um, famous people, they all have the same blocks we do. We might not see it, but they procrastinate. They feel overwhelmed sometimes. um, they are perfectionists and that gets in the way of their creativity. All of us go through that. um, what I'm trying to do is give people tools to move through that. And again, I'm gonna go back to yoga and mindfulness. It's all a practice,
Mm.
and there's days where your practice isn't fantastic and it might not feel great and it might not work, but you keep doing it and you keep doing it, and as you do, it becomes easier and easier to get back to that point where you feel centered and whole again. It's not such a long path. Um, so yeah, for
When
sure.
yeah, when you're starting to work with someone, I'm just curious, do you find some resistance at first when things aren't happening as quickly as they would like? Because like you said, it's a habit, like you have to, it's a process, and things might come out like during the beginning of this whole coaching that it is difficult, and people might want to stop, but how, I don't know. I'm just curious, some of the clients that you work with, do you find some resistance, or do you find some emotions coming out when you're just starting out with them?
Definitely. But the thing that is, I'll say, different with Kaizen-Muse, as opposed to some other types of coaching, um, is it's all about small gradual steps, which means small gradual successes.
Mm,
um, when I'm coaching somebody and a lot of resistance is coming up, um, we talk about what the next tiny small
mm,
step is that they can take, and that's led by the client. um, but we explore that, because what often happens when we're trying to change something is we give ourselves unrealistic deadlines. We have unrealistic expectations. We want things to move faster. We want to be able to do things sooner. And that just leads to more discouragement, guilt, and shame. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'll never be able to. So if we start with something really small and we succeed at that, it's like a little bit of creative momentum that gives us a push into the next small step.
mhm,
Um, And what we also do, what I like to do with people is, we always do something during our session. There is an experience. You are actually doing the work in the session. we're not just talking about it and then you go away and come back again in a week. If the next small step is pulling out your art supplies and looking at them to see what you have, we're going to do that on the call. If the client, again, client led, if the client is agreeable to that. And it is absolutely amazing what that can do to help people move through their blocks. Just those little tiny successes. And really that's what lights me up. When I see that light bulb go off, or that epiphany where they've, connected again, even if it's in a tiny way, it's just like, it's exhilarating. I love it. It's like people have come alive.
It's like you get just as much as they get, you know what I mean? Like you receive so much, like just as much. I love your approach to the small steps. I had a guest once on the show who described to me, it sounded so simple, but it's always in my mind. You can't take one step forward and one step back at the same time, and it just has to be like movement, right? So sometimes, we live in a generation, I think, and me and you are exactly the same age. So we live in a generation where everything is like gratifying, like quick, like kids growing up with, oh, I need this right now. And you get it online and it's there. Like it just magically appears. And to take those small steps, sometimes we don't have patience enough to do it. So I love, because you want to see the results, right? But that's not how it works. So I love that you do that, because also every milestone, every small step, you feel like you're moving forward because you're achieving something a little bit, although it might be smaller than taking big steps, it's more of them. And you take your time through the journey, So I love that so much.
Yeah, and that's what the word Kaizen means. The founder of Kaizen-Muse, Jill Badonsky, who's brilliant and an amazing teacher, she borrowed that word. It's actually used in a lot of business settings and management settings. It's a Japanese word that means continuous improvement through small steps.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. So it's because we're all afraid of change. Most of us are terrified of change, which is why we get stuck. And if we make the steps small enough, it stops those fear responses in our brain from going off. They're not, being alarmed and saying, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Like, we can't do this. This is too much. If we can disarm those, it's just a much kinder, gentler way to create change within ourselves. And I'm guilty, and I still definitely struggle with this. I want to plow through things. I want to muscle through. I want to just like be chin up and just get it done. Which is useful for some things, but it's not really a kind way to
save that for your job, or save that for the gardening you don't want to get done, or the dishes that are sitting there, but when it comes to us, like, so it was Mother's Day not too long ago, and I had so many things to do, and I thought, okay, I need to stop and do the things that I'm teaching. So what can I do? So I just grabbed some rocks from the garden, grabbed some paint, and I sat there. My son's like, what are you doing? Now he's 14. He's still asking me these questions. I'm like, I'm going to paint ladybug rocks. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I sat there. He's like, don't you want to do anything? I'm like, there's COVID. What are we going to do for Mother's Day? I said, you want to join me? He said, nope. I said, okay. So I sat there for about 2 hours and I painted all these ladybug rocks, and I lost myself in what I was doing. And it was so nice because it was this peace. And I was like, although there's not much you can do, that was like one of the best Mother's Day, because I took time out for me, and it still looks beautiful at the end of the day, right? And then you get back to all the rush and all the things, but you have to take those breaks. Like, you can't have life like that all the time. I don't think that's realistic, but you do need to carve that out.
No, I love that. I love that you did that. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Just bringing awareness to that, right? Bringing awareness to
so good.
Slowing down and doing something for ourselves.
Yeah. And if there's people listening to the show right now that that think they don't have time. That used to be me. And you have to choose to have the time. Start with 10 minutes. Then you're going to like it so much, it'll be 20 minutes. And then you're going to really enjoy it. And you're going to be like I do stained glass as well. And I was like, oh, I don't have the time to sit here and do this. And then 5 hours goes by and it's like, Mom, I want dinner, Mom. And I'm like, okay, now I'm getting to be a little bit, you have to have balance with everything, but you can get so lost and you just show up better for everybody else too. So I think it's so important. So if there's somebody out there listening, like, connect with Gina, because she really, it sounds to me that she really tries to connect you with the thing that drives you. So you'll help them find what that is, right? I mean, you'll try different
Yep.
things
And it might be more than one thing.
Mm,
And that's where I got stuck for a long time, because I knew I wanted to be creative, or I wanted to do creative things, but I was like, am I a writer? Am I a painter? Am I something else? I don't know. And one day I was like, wait, I can be all of those things if I want to be. I like, there's no limit. There's no limit
yes, I
to it.
love it. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for
Exactly. You can be a musician and make stained glass and paint ladybug rocks. Like, that's all allowed. There's no creativity police that are going to come out and say you can't do all those things. So, yeah, absolutely.
And being a writer, it sounds so professional. I mean, you could just think of it maybe like a person who likes to write. Like
Yep.
sometimes when you put writer or musician, it's like so professional title that you feel like you have to be actually good at it. You don't have to. It's
Mhm.
just a form of expression, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I want to bring up two things that that Jill used to always say to us, and I use them a lot for myself and with my clients. Um, you know, make something small and crappy. That's okay. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. It doesn't have to be a symphony. It can be anything. Just feel okay with making something small and crappy. You are still being creative. Um, and the other thing that she likes to say is do it anyways.
Mm,
So when you hear that little voice of resistance in your head, I don't have enough time. I only have 5 minutes. So what? I'm going to do it anyway.
mm.
I don't know how to use oil paints. Who am I to think I can do this? So what? I'm going to do it anyway. It just silences that little voice.
Yeah, do it
And let's
imperfectly.
just, yep, yep.
Wow. I have this, if I could share something personal with you, I have this little box where I've created things, even if it's plasticine and I let them harden. Um, and like the ugliest things that like humanly possible. Like, I don't know how I made something so ugly, but I've kept all these things because sometimes when I'm really upset, I open this box and I look and I'm like, I remember I was really angry when I did that. I remember when I was really, this made me so happy that day. I remember I was crying and I made this. And I just kind of keep it as a memory of the feelings that I had when I created it, as
Yeah,
opposed to how good the product is,
yeah,
and that's really helped me so much.
yeah. That's beautiful. It's like, it's helping you get back in touch with yourself, right?
Mhm. Oh, if I could show
I
you my
love it.
flying monkey that I did with plasticine, it's like, oh,
Oh,
but I
I
remember
have some
how I
beauties
felt.
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
this
Yeah.
is
I
great.
had to, when I was in that drawing class, I lived with my sisters in an apartment, and I used to bring my stuff back, and we would just laugh and laugh. Like, it was so bad. But I loved it. And I felt really proud
Mm.
um, that I made it through that class, and I was okay with how it looked.
Yeah,
It
it
was,
sounds like so many feelings came up just from that
mm,
moment. Like the feelings of when you're actually creating it. You probably had
mm,
self-doubt and fear and all those things, but then you were proud. You had laughing over it. Like
yeah,
so much can happen in that moment but if you don't take the time to really like be mindful and all the things you were talking about, you miss all those opportunities
yeah,
to feel more than just crappy.
yeah.
Yeah,
We learned so much from our failures, and we learned so much from the process.
I love
So
that.
much from the process.
Yeah. What would be like a first step to somebody discovering like kind of what their choice is, like right at the beginning when they're like, oh, I don't have any skills, or what would be the first thing maybe that you would maybe say to them?
Um, I think I might work through a guided relaxation with the person,
Mm,
and just set up a scenario where they're exploring and perhaps they come upon something and they receive a message,
mm,
um, and just for them to listen to what that message might be. And the message, for a lot of people, it's not a voice or words. It could be all kinds of things. It could be imagery, it could be sound, it could be color.
mm,
Um, it also could be something that doesn't come to you that day, but
mhm,
you've planted that seed. Um, and just let them sit with that and see what comes up.
mm.
Because there's probably something in there. There's
Yeah,
got to be, yeah.
I
They
love that because you're already testing them to do something that perhaps they never thought to do before. So already you're
Yeah,
changing the way that they think, right?
yeah, and it's a way of unclogging that soul, right? Getting the dirt and grime away. Um, yeah. So I think I'd also do some exercises with them. We might do some sort of free writing exercise, or um, we I try to change things up with people and maybe have them draw something without looking at the paper,
Mhm.
or draw something with their non-dominant hand. And all of those are just ways of opening up those creative channels and getting them to listen to themselves.
Yeah,
Um,
because they might stumble upon something they never thought. Like it could even be
yeah,
movement or something, right?
yeah.
Love.
And I've been, surprised myself when I've done
Mm,
these exercises, what's come up. Um,
so cool.
for an example, there was a story that I had wanted to write, and I had started, and I never finished it. And it was, somewhere in the cobwebs of my computer. But it always sort of niggled at me that I hadn't finished it. So when I was going through the creativity coaching, we had to pair up and do, practice coaching in front of our peers. And I thought, I'm going to bring up this story because, maybe, like, I don't know why I'm not finishing this story, not thinking anything of it. And so we did some of these exercises and a guided relaxation, and I became really emotional.
Mm.
I didn't know where it came from because I certainly wasn't feeling emotional before I started the session or anything like that. And it came up that I was really afraid about my mom reading it and how she would react. And it wasn't anything sensitive, or it was just, something that was deeper inside of me that I didn't even know I was fighting against.
Mm.
But once I knew that, I was able to move through it, and finish it. Um,
Yay. It's like the fear
yeah,
of
and
being judged.
what the person that was coaching me did, they had me pull up the story during the session. And again, that was something, because I had built this up in my mind that, it's terrible and there's hardly anything there, and I don't know, like, I don't even know where I'm going to find it. It's going to take forever. And like, I pulled it up in 2 minutes,
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, there's actually like a pretty good outline here. Like, there's some, I can work with this. And it just made everything go away
Oh, that's fun.
so
I love
quickly.
hearing stories like this.
Um,
This is amazing.
yeah,
Because you have to let go of the
yeah,
fear of being judged, right? Even if it's your mom. Like you
yeah,
just, oh
yeah,
my God, this is so beautiful.
yeah, really. I mean, almost all of our blocks are related to fear,
Hmm.
right? I mean, fear is what drives so many of these things that don't help us move through life with ease. So
Hmm.
yeah, the more we can disarm those little fear responses, the easier it's going to be.
And so many of us, I don't know about you, but so many of us also have the fear of being successful. It's like, what if I'm
Absolutely.
really good at that? Why are we afraid of those things? It just doesn't make sense mentally. But so many of us are afraid of doing well at something. I don't know if it's fear of people thinking that, we think we're better than them because we have the skill. I don't know, but we should celebrate that. I
Hmm.
don't know. Maybe it's our generation because we are the same age. And more I talk to people our age, I think we're coming up, we're starting to realize these things because we weren't taught this when we were younger. I find the new generation is more sensitive in a way, more open
Hmm.
to themselves, and which I'm so happy about. I really am.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Wow.
I agree. Yeah, it's tough to, and that's something I see too is fear of success.
Mm,
It's I think for a lot of people it means change. Um, a lot of people have issues around having too much money.
mm.
They want too much money, but the actual thought of having too much money
And
or too much recognition is means it might mean to them that they're a bad person
and
or
I think it's
yeah,
because people associate, like, if you're born into money or whether you work really hard for your money or whatever it is, people look down on it. Like, but why can't we celebrate the hard work of people and where they are? Why do we have
yeah,
to? It's so true.
yeah. But I think it's about having that, abundance mindset, which is
Mhm.
something I'm training myself to have
Always
too, because well, we're grown. We're conditioned to think that there's lack and there's not enough of anything, and we have to compete for it.
Mm,
And I think it's also, you know, it's like thousands of years of patriarchy and doing business a certain way and having society operate a certain way. It's always from a lack mindset. Um, but I believe that the universe is abundant and there's enough for everyone, but we just have to open ourselves up to that. But
yeah.
yeah, it's tough to move to that
Hmm.
because of all of the conditioning we've received.
But once you're in it, once you accept like all these things that you're teaching, once you accept that and you're there and you're on the other side, you look back saying, "Oh my God, like what a difference."
Yeah.
Why didn't couldn't I embrace this sooner? And then you just, it happened when when it was right to happen.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so grateful for people like you because I really do think you show people a different way of thinking, not just feeling, but just to express themselves. And being someone who suppressed their feelings for 12 years, I would have loved to have something like this be taught to me back then. So thank you for, for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and helping, get this message out there. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it so much.
I would love for people to try some of these things and to connect with you and then just get back to me and let me know how it went because I love seeing the transformations. I would even have loves for somebody to try some of the things that you're saying and then come and be a guest. Maybe we could do something, the three of us, just to see how this actually worked for them and all the positive changes that it's made. Like that would be fantastic to see somebody
Wow.
actually go through it, right?
That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody's listening and you want to get in touch with Gina, I mean, so what are the best ways that somebody can get a hold of you, Gina?
You can find me on the web at ginaclarkcreative.com. So all kinds of information there. I've recently started a Facebook group called the Creativity Collab. And it is going to be just a supportive place for creative people to share their work, share their struggles, get support when they need it. Because creativity likes to mount rebellions every now and again.
I love
Um, yeah, and just be, really drama free. Um, but yeah, if people are also looking to, go further with unlocking their own creativity, I have a free guide, and you can find that on my website. It's 5 simple ways to unlock your creativity. So yeah, I recommend that they go check it out.
I'm going to go check it out. And I want to be a part of your group because I think it would help me to continue doing the work that I'm doing as well. You never stop, right? So it's like a
So,
process. There's no cure, there's no end to it. So I think it's great. Is there
yeah.
anything we didn't talk about today that you wanted to share?
Um, I don't think so. I think yeah, we touched on so much. It was just a great conversation. It was like talking to an old friend.
Oh, that's great. That's how I feel too. I just, when you talk about things like I'm normally very quiet, but when I talk about things that are passionate to me and I see transformations in other people who are trying to teach that, it fires me up. Like it's
Yeah,
just so comfortable. It's like where I sit most comfortable. So I'm glad.
yeah.
I really enjoyed our conversation as well. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for everything and for coming on and yeah, just sharing your personal story as well, because I think that really helps connect the story, what you're doing and why you do it, and it shows your passion, and it shows that this isn't just a job. This is something you've invested your life in this, because it also helps you as well. Like you said, you receive just as much as you give, sometimes even more, right? So continue all the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You as well.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.